Pope Francis had a complicated relationship with power in the church. So one of the first things that he does is he says, well, I'm not going to live in the Apostolic Palace, which is this ornate, gorgeous place with frescoes by Raphael. He goes across the Vatican gardens and lives in a simple residence called Santa Marta. And everyone said, wow, this is a sign of how humble he is. And that's true, but it was also a sign that he wanted to get outside of the usual channels of power inside the Vatican. For decades, and even longer, really centuries, the idea was that Rome was the center of the church and that everything flowed to Rome and all power flowed down from Rome. So in the Roman Catholic Church, there's something called the curia, and essentially it's just a bureaucracy that runs the church. It's a bunch of big marble buildings with department heads and secretaries. It exists to help the Pope carry out his office. So over time, and I mean a long time, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that curia has amassed an enormous amount of power. Francis comes out as Pope, and right away, he shows that he doesn't quite trust the bureaucracy of the church that he is now running. Remember, he was a bishop out in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, so he saw the curia from the outside. He sets up a small council of cardinals who he really trusts, empowers them. He eventually has a new constitution. But really what he's doing is he's taking power away from the curia in a sort of reform and centralizing decision-making to himself. And his hope was that the actual way that the church made decisions would become more bottom-up. The hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church is you have priests, and then priests can become bishops, and then bishops, if they really make it, can become cardinals. One way Francis tried to reshape the church was giving more power and more decision-making authority to local bishops. And he also wanted faithful to feel more like it was their church. So early on in Francis's pontificate, he releases this really important document. He seems to make it possible for divorced and remarried Catholics to access communion. He says, let's leave it up to the local bishops and the priests. Why don't you go talk to them? You guys work it out together. It's a process. And so people who were extremely attached to the doctrine and the rules of the church, they said, you can't do this. This is undermining the whole operation. But what Francis was doing was enabling big decisions to be made through a process where the faithful are talking to their priests. And that, to him, was the entire idea. On the one hand, Francis, his whole vision is to decentralize power in the church. On the other hand, he's amassing power, right, within the Vatican, taking it away from the old institution, so it could seem in contradiction. But I think actually there was something consistent there. He felt he had to get around them, get around Rome, in essence, in order to actually devolve these powers and bring his vision of the church out into the world.